your girl Julia V, and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, make sure you click the subscribe button below. Make sure you like this video, and let's get into some tips on how to live cheap in New York City. Cause girl, you know, people like me need a budget, right? So these tips can work for somebody who already lives in NYC, or if you are looking to move here in the future. You know, you researching videos like I did before I moved to New York. I literally watched every single video about moving to New York City, how to live in New York City, where to live, how to move. I know I watched all those videos before, so if that's you, this video will help just to give you a little bit of guidance for the future. You know, once you get here, you can start doing these things. So tip number one is to not live in Manhattan. Like, you know, Manhattan is cool. I really do enjoy Manhattan from a distance. Like, I like to look at it, I like to be there. Do I want to lay my head there for 3 times the amount of money? Absolutely not. If you're looking to live in New York City, try to see if you can go to Brooklyn or go to the Bronx, or Queens is kind of far. Like Sunnyside, Queens, or Queens that's right on the edge. Some of Queens is literally right across the bridge. A lot of the other boroughs are literally right across the bridge. You can get to the city in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, depends on where you live, and it'll be a fraction of the price of living in actual Manhattan. Even Harlem is still on the higher side compared to like the Bronx or compared to Brooklyn or Queens, but it's still cheaper than living in like Chelsea or Soho. Like, those are outrageous prices to me. You know, girl, listen, if you got the budget to live, if you got the budget to live in Soho, girl, I promise you, do it. Because I would. If I had the money, maybe so. Actually, probably not. Even if I had the money, I really don't even know if I would want to spend it on that. But tip number one is to look at the other boroughs. It's way more to New York City than just Manhattan. Every borough has its own personalities. It has their own qualities, their own good things, their own bad things, and it's more than just Manhattan. I know in the movies it looks like it's just Times Square in Manhattan and that's all you see, and like you can't get past that. But y'all, I'm telling y'all, look outside of Manhattan, look at some other boroughs, because that's where you're gonna get the bang idea. But I live in Brooklyn and I haven't even done a room tour of this apartment, but my rent, let me tell you, my rent is less than $600. And it might take me like a 25-minute train ride to get to Manhattan. Like, no problem. So yeah, tip number one, look outside of Manhattan. Tip number two, plan your grocery trips. So for people who live in New York with no car, I'm a person who lives in New York with a car, but also it's something flying. I also live in Brooklyn where I can have a car and I can park and I can drive to a real grocery store, and I don't have to get it from the bodega or the mom and pop grocery stores that are right, like, walkable from my house. So if you don't have a car and you know that the grocery stores that are closer to your house are super expensive, find where that cheaper grocery store is. There are options. I know, I've been in a couple grocery stores here and milk is like $4 and cereal's like $5, and like ridiculous prices. I'm like, who is buying this? But you know who buying it? The people who live across the street, the people who live upstairs. Like, convenience is not always the best bet when you don't have no money, when you're trying to save your money, when you're trying to buy other stuff. But I'm not trying to spend the most money on groceries. And honestly, y'all, in New York, you don't even you gonna eat out more than you eat at home. That's just the culture here. And even during the pandemic, I still find myself eating out more than I eat at home. So yeah, I'm not doing the really expensive grocery store. Like I said, I am an exception because I do have a car. So I drive to Aldi, or I drive to a Stop and Shop, not Stop and Shop, what's it called, Shop and Save, a huge grocery store chain here in New York. I'll drive 20 minutes to go to regular grocery store prices, where it's the same price as it would be, literally the same prices as it would be at Kroger at home. I'm from Memphis, so I'm used to like Kroger and Walmart grocery. I can even go to a Walmart grocery that's like a 25-minute drive away from my house, but I have a car. So if you don't have a car, you need to go and find those better priced grocery stores around you. Even if you have to get on the train and go to Trader Joe's, get on the train and go to Trader Joe's. I'm not a big fan of Trader Joe's, but it's better than like these expensive grocery stores like Wegmans. Girl, Whole Foods, absolutely not. I'm sorry, like, you know, I go to Whole Foods sometimes when I'm feeling real, like, you know, real good about my money. I go to Whole Foods, but I just can't afford it. So yeah, plan your grocery trips. That's tip number 2. Tip number 3, I know this is contrary to what I just said about eating out, but skip the expensive restaurants. I've been living in New York. I moved here about a year ago, but honestly with the pandemic I went home for a while, so really I've only been living in New York for maybe like 7 or 8 months in all. And I have not went to that many expensive restaurants. I have eaten out a tremendous amount, but none of them were those really fancy, really expensive restaurants. Get on this website called Post if you want to go to an expensive restaurant. I wish Post would sponsor me, because I give them all my money. When I want to go somewhere super nice or somewhere high dollar, fine dining, I get on Post, PLUSD.com. They have an app. They have deals on deals. You can get like 2 or 3 meals, 3-course meals for like $40, or it'll be 2 can dine for $60, 3-course meals. Like crazy deals. If you know that you don't have $100 meal money, don't go to these restaurants where your bill is gonna come out to be $100. It happens. It'll happen easily. You get a meal, you get a drink. Like me, I like to get a drink when I go out to eat. Like, that's something that I want to do. If I can't get the whole thing, I don't really want to go. So when I go out to eat, I want to get a drink, and I want to get an appetizer maybe and a salad along with my food, and then I want to take my food home if I don't eat it all. So if you know that you like those things, you know that you tend to rack up the bills, the bill get real high when they come back to you, don't go to these super high class restaurants. Go to some of these other restaurants. It's so many affordable restaurants here in New York. You do not have to go to the most expensive ones, but you have to look out for the deals. You gotta be ready. You gotta be ready. Don't go to STK. No, honey, don't go there. Get on Post, find you a deal, and maybe STK will be on there. You never know. I went to some really nice restaurants from Post, and I only paid 1/3 of the price that it costs to actually be there. So yeah, that's a little throw out there. Post.com, PLUSD. I'll link it below. I wish they would sponsor me, but they not. I just really love their website. Tip number 4. Don't buy the weekly/monthly train pass if you do not work a full-time job and you have to go on the train twice a day. One more time. Do not buy the monthly or weekly train pass, Metro card, if you do not go on the train at least twice a day. I learned that the hard way. When I first moved here, I did not have my car, so I drove. I didn't have my car, so I rode the train. I bought the monthly pass because I rode the train and I had to transfer, and it was worth my money. When the summertime came along, or not even when the summertime came along, whenever there were moments where I didn't have to go to work every single day, I did not ride the train every day. If you do not ride the train every day, it is not worth your money to buy that monthly pass. It sounds tempting because it's like, oh, I can ride unlimited amount of times. But especially nowadays, during these pandemic times, the times of the pandemic, people are not riding the train back and forth places. So don't buy it. You better off just buying your $2.75 whenever you do go somewhere. And you most likely not even going somewhere super far anymore. Like, I know now, I used to ride the train. Even though I had a car, I rode the train a lot. And because I went to the city a lot to go to bars and to go to happy hour and go out with my friends. I rode the train a lot. But now I can count on this many times, how many times I rode the train since like the pandemic started, since March. So yeah. If you do not have a full-time job, going to work and from work, or at least ride the train 2 times a day, do not buy the monthly or weekly train pass, because that's $134 that you will have in your pocket. So, you know, just be mindful of how much you actually ride the train compared to how much you're gonna pay for it. Tip number 5. as somebody who is not a native New Yorker and do not consider myself a New Yorker because I just got here, and honestly I'm not too fond of like a super hardcore New York lifestyle. If you have a car and you live in Brooklyn or the Bronx or Queens, bring your car. Bring your car. I know people tell you you don't need a car, you don't need a car, you don't need a car. It's so much hassle, it's so bad, it's so this. But honestly, y'all, my life in New York is so much more enjoyable with my car than it was before I had it. Hands down. I almost hated it before I got my car. I hate it. I'm not gonna say I hated it, but the commutes back and forth places makes me sick, right? It makes me sick. Like I used to work at a school that was really far. When I used to be a teacher, that's another story for another day. I used to work somewhere that was like not even that far away from my house. It was a 30-minute drive. It would take me 3 hours, this many, 1 2 3, to get there and get back home. Public transportation. It was sick. With my car, I can, like I said, I can go to Walmart, I can go to a more affordable grocery store. I go a lot of places in Brooklyn. I don't really go, especially now, I think, I go to the city sometimes. If I go to Manhattan, I'll ride the train. But just going around Brooklyn on a daily basis, which is where I do most things because I live in Brooklyn, I drive, I park in the parking lot. Please, places have regular stuff when you live in other boroughs besides Manhattan. So if you live in Brooklyn or you live in another borough, any other borough besides Manhattan or Harlem, if you have a car, you have access to a car, you own a car, I mean, I would say bring it and try it out. Depends on where you live, how bad the parking is. I live in Crown Heights, so the parking is not awful. I always find a parking spot. I have run across some problems with parking tickets when I first started driving here because I didn't really know what was going on, but now I rarely ever get parking tickets. Yeah, it's definitely worth it if you think, I'm not gonna say it's definitely worth it. It's worth it if you like to have conveniences like myself. I would rather have my car as an option than have no car. Also, I'm almost done paying for my car, so I was not willing to sell my car. I did leave it at home when I first got here because I took everybody else's advice on don't bring your car, you don't need it, it's gonna be so expensive to have a car in New York. And honestly, you know, I like it. And I don't see myself living here without a car ever. So I also don't ever really plan on living in Manhattan unless I come across millions of dollars. Other than that, I definitely will be staying in Brooklyn, and I definitely will be paying for a garage. So I say if you have access to a car, it's worth it to try it. See if you like it. If you don't like it with a car, you think it's too much, you think the parking is too much, you think it's like just a hassle, then take it back. Like take it back home or sell it, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of people here have cars. They make it seem like, before I got here, people made it seem like nobody had a car and it was just crazy to drive in New York, and it's really not that bad. If you live in other places besides Manhattan, that don't apply. If you live in Manhattan, girl, no, absolutely not. I don't do it. But if you're gonna live in Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, Jersey, bring your car. Tip number 6. Tip number 6. I got a piece of paper in my hand, that's why I had to put that under my arm. It's quality over quantity. Y'all, before I moved to New York, I had a full luxury 1-bed apartment by myself. I had a crazy amount of stuff, crazy amount of clothes, shoes, furniture, everything. I mean, I lived by myself, so I didn't have any limits on how much stuff I had because I had an unlimited amount of space. Well, not unlimited amount of space, but I had more than enough space for one person. I have had to completely downsize my entire life to fit in this bedroom I live in. I live in a 4-bedroom apartment with 2 roommates. One of the rooms are free, luckily, but 2 other people live here. My room is half of the size my old bedroom used to be. So imagine my bedroom and my 1-bedroom apartment in Memphis. Slice it in half. That's the size of my bedroom here, and everything I own has to fit in this room. So let's just say I've had to change my way of thinking, change my way of buying. I can't just buy without getting rid of the stuff I already have. I can't have an excess amount of stuff everywhere. I can't have just a bunch of stuff laying around, just random stuff. If it's not being used, if it's not something that I really need, I cannot keep it. And that's something that you have to really understand when you live in a small space, especially when you used to always living in really big spaces. I've always lived in a really big space, always. Like, this is the first time in my life I've ever had to condense myself down to fit in a very small space and have to like reevaluate everything I own. Like, do I really need this? Do I really need this coat? Because I have like seven coats. Do I really need this jacket? So I have too many. My closet is tiny. I'm gonna do a room tour of this room. It'll be in another video soon, but my closet is tiny. I probably have got rid of a third of the amount of clothes I used to have, and now I just really only buy stuff that I really love. And I think that's something that you have to do in New York, especially if you are downsizing to a very small space. Quality over quantity. Get things that you really love, get things that you really use, instead of just having a whole bunch of stuff to choose from, which is what I used to do before. Just have a whole bunch of stuff to choose from when I wasn't even choosing none of them because I didn't even like none of this shit. So quality over quantity. Yeah. Number 7, become a DIY queen or king. DIY, do it yourself. Y'all, me, Jaleisha V, boo, like a beauty queen. If you don't know how to do your own hair, your own nails, your own makeup, your own everything in New York, all kinds of just like specialty services are extremely expensive here. And that's something I didn't really think about. Like, I want to go get my hair done, it's triple the price it would cost at home. Get your nails done, it's twice the price it would cost at home. Any kind of beauty service is just expensive. Like car wash, expensive. Things like that you don't really think about are so much more expensive here. Learn how to do it yourself. Learn how to do your own hair. Learn how to, if you're a man, learn how to cut your own hair. I don't know how much haircuts cost, but if it's anything like getting your hair done here, too much. Learn how to do your own hair. Learn how to cut your own hair. Learn how to do your own eyebrows. Wax them. You might not want to skip out of that, girl. Go get that wax. But learn how to do your own nails. Learn how to do your own pedicure. I can't really wash my own car, but I try not to get it that dirty because y'all, the car washes are really expensive here. Oops. Car washes are really expensive here. Yeah, just become a DIY queen or king. Learn how to paint. Learn how to make your own stuff. Learn how to cook. Learn how to do things yourself, because everything is just a little more expensive than what you would normally do, especially if you're coming from living at home with your parents where they provided a lot of those things for you. So yeah, DIY, become a DIY queen or king. Number 8, the subscriptions gotta go. Subscriptions. I used to have so many subscriptions, and not even just subscriptions. I'm not even gonna say just subscriptions, but any kind of unnecessary things out of your budget. You don't need Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and HBO and Stars. You do not need all of those. Pick one hot one and stick with that one, or pick 2, even 2, but 1 is really enough. You do not need all those. You're trying to live on a budget. You're trying to live cheap. You're trying to keep your money in your pockets. You're trying to have money to go out with your friends. You either want to have that Netflix or you want to be able to go get some drinks. Which one you want? Pick one and stick with it. Pick one music service and stick with it. I only have Spotify and Netflix. I cut out everything else. I don't do any of those. I used to do Ipsy Box. I cut that. I used to have a Savage X Fenty, subscription. No, I used to have a Just Fab. Cut it. I used to have so many subscriptions and I had to stop them. 1, I don't even need that stuff. 2, I feel like I live in New York. I need to go experience my time here. I don't need to spend my time sitting in the house watching TV. I live in New York City. Go experience something. Go have a good time in real life. Like, I mean, yeah. Well, you know, pandemic, okay, when we were all in quarantine, all right, you can get your subscriptions back. But now that you know you can actually go outside a little, tiny bit, not a lot, because you know the cases are going back up, so you can't go out that much, but a little bit more than you used to. This much, a little bit. Or even if you are at home, you shouldn't be spending all your time watching TV. Period. Period. Cut those subscriptions, girl. Let them go. It ain't for you. You don't need it. Pick one. I prefer Netflix. That's me. You might prefer Hulu, but that's you. Number 9. This is the most important one. I obviously should have put this one at number 10, but it's important. Not number 10 is super important too, but number 9 is right next to it. Learn how to say no. N-O. No. No, I can't go to happy hour today because I don't have no money. No, I don't want to go. No, actually I think I'm gonna sit this one out. Learn how to say no. If you don't, you'll find yourself in every bar, in every club, in every restaurant, in every happy hour, every day. Every day. Spending money that you don't have. And maybe you have it, but spending money that you should not be spending on that, which is me. Learn how to say no. People will ask you to do stuff. Especially when you get here, you actually get to meet people and meet new friends. And you will come across people who go out every day. Especially before, pre-pandemic, you could go out every day in New York. There was a spot you could go to. As soon as you get off work, if you have a 9-to-5 job or a conventional job, so if you get off work, you can head to a happy hour. The drinks will be cheap, but you're gonna get about 3 or 4 of them. Then after that, you're gonna have to get something to eat. You're gonna have to go get a pizza, or you're gonna have to go get something. You can spend 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 dollars a day doing that if you cannot say no. Sometimes it's okay to go. A lot of times it's okay to go. But if you know that you have tight, you know that your money is tight, you know that you have some more goals, you know that you gotta pay your rent, girl, you can't say yes to everything. You just can't. You can't say yes. So much stuff here is free. So many events, so much stuff that you can do that don't cost money. Do not spend all your money going out. Like, that's not the way to live cheap in New York. That's not the way to live cheap. Last but not least, the most important thing about living cheap in New York, or living on a budget in New York, know what's important to you. You have to know your reason for being here. So many people get caught up in New York, and I've witnessed that with my own eyes, and I've only been living here a short amount of time. You can get lost in trying to keep up with everything that's going on around you, that you don't even know what you're here for. You don't even know what you're doing here. And I kind of saw that happening to me, which is why I appreciate the pandemic. I feel like it taught us all so much stuff. It changed my life for sure. You have to know what you're here for. You got to know your purpose. And if you don't know your purpose, and you don't know the reason for being in New York City, which can be just a whole nother video. If you do not know your purpose, or you don't know what you're here for, the reason why you're here, you gonna get lost. Which means you're gonna be spending money, spending time on things that you do not need to be spending money and time on, because you don't know why you're here. You don't know your purpose for being here. And there's no reason to be here if you have no bigger goal than just living here. It's expensive here. It's very inconvenient. I was thinking another word. Inconvenience. That should be the inconvenience. Everything about New York is inconvenient. So if you don't have a reason, you don't know what's important to you, what's important to you. Maybe going out and spending my money on clothes and designer is not important to me. That could be important to somebody who is here to get a career in fashion. Having the designer stuff, having clothes, having the looks is important to them. But if that's not what you're here for, don't make that what's important to you. Period. Know what's important to you. Why are you here? If you're here to do media, having equipment, having cameras and stuff like that is important to you, or should be. So investing in that should be important to you. That means if somebody say, hey, let's spend $200 to go to this concert, and you don't have $200 for that, that may not be what's important to you. You know why you're here, know your reasoning, know your purpose. And you might not know right off rip, because honestly, I'm gonna be real with y'all. When I first got here, what I thought I wanted to do, what I came here for, is not even what I'm doing now. Not even what I'm doing right now. It's part of it. I had a vision, but it's not even, the bulk of it is not even the same. It has totally shifted to something else, and I feel like that's why I'm here, to learn my purpose, to get where I want to go. But I wouldn't know that if I didn't have my eyes on the prize. You gotta know why you're here. You gotta know what's important. You gotta keep the right company so they can keep your head on straight too. I hope you guys enjoyed this video on 10 tips on how to live cheap in New York City. I hope you learned something. If you haven't moved here yet, I hope this will give you a little insight on what to look forward to. And if you already live here, maybe some of the tips I gave you can change your outlook, or just have you think a little hard about what's going on. So if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what you thought about my tips. Maybe you have some more tips to add. I'm always open to some more tips about how to improve in my own life, how to save more money in my pockets. So write those down in the comment section below, and I'll see y'all in the next one.